Okay, so first one, how did you first get into sport rugby and how did you end up playing for Bears? So for me, sport's been massive, I think. Growing up, tried every sport under the sun, had a mini hockey stick, golf clubs, all sorts, just playing in the garden with my dad. Also got 3 siblings as well, so yeah, played a lot of football in the garden, broken pots and fences and all sorts until we got too big and chucked out. So yeah, every sport under the sun. Really lucky at school, we had loads of opportunities to play like clubs and try different things out, and that's kind of how I first got into rugby. Bristol born and bred, got to 18 so I could play senior rugby and look for my local club, and it was Bristol Rugby, and been playing ever since. 15 years later, still going.
Yeah.
So yeah, been around a while. What about you guys?
For me, it was kind of similar experience, like growing up, do all sorts of sports, just get thrown into it like the youngest child, so kind of was left to my own devices a bit. Yeah, literally did every sport in school, had really nice opportunities in that sense. Everything that I did like was the same as the boys, we all just went along. And some of the boys I grew up with, their dads started going to the rugby club and they were like, oh, let's all go along. So we all went along, me and a group of boys as usual, when I was about 6 to start rugby. And then kind of just kept it up, was playing football alongside it throughout college and things like that. And then when I was looking at unis, I was looking at Loughborough because that was the closest one to home, being from the Midlands. And then the University of Bath, and the course there was like perfect for me. So moved to Bath for uni, and then Bristol Bears was the nearest club. So came along and yeah, loved it. Similar, it's the environment that's at rugby that's different to any other sport, like football, rugby. Did them both, and then was like I had to choose which level I wanted to get to and in which, and rugby was the culture, the environment that is created, and I think that's what my family love as well. So yeah, that's why I stuck with it.
Mine was kind of similar. I started on football when I was about 9. And yeah, I did a tag tournament. I grew up watching like league and stuff. Like Dad was a Bradford supporter, so like grew up watching that. And then Coventry had a pretty good like union set up, so I went to watch that every Saturday. And then yeah, I just ended up doing a tag tournament at school. Said I liked it. It was at a local rugby club. Dad took me along, and the coach, like the first line he said was, "You do know this is contact, right?" And I was like, "No, but I'm going to do it anyway." So stayed doing that, and then obviously had to move to the girls' team, which was like Hinckley, which is Leicester. And then, yeah, bounced around a bit, hit Lichfield, I think, when I was like under 15s, Worcester when I was under 18s, and kind of finished it all up there, and then kind of naturally ended up in the women's team for Worcester, and it was like the first year of Tyrrell's, so there was a massive changeover of players, and we were all kind of thrown in at 18. Like my first senior game was 80 minutes against like Loughborough. We got hammered like 60-0, something like that. And then 6 years there, and then yeah, next thing I know, I'm at Bears. Yeah, and just like I love it. It's a nice change as well from the 7th year. And yeah, I love it. Love the culture. Love the group. Really enjoying it.
Oh, you're up.
I'm up. Have you faced any barriers on your sporting journey, and how did you overcome them?
I guess it's always one with transitioning when you're 12 years old playing rugby. Like that period between when you can't play the boys anymore, but you still want to play and you want to play contact rugby, and that opportunity in that gap. I think a lot of people like rely on their parents or people's friends nearby that are supporting their children playing. But like for me, my dad like set up a team for Staffordshire, like any of the girls that were playing in the whole county. He kind of set up a team. We had like our own design of kit, and it was kind of that support, because without that and without like the drive from my parents, even though they're not very sporty at all, just to support me, that was kind of how I got into it. Because obviously being in a position where there's no girls team around at that age, I think that was a barrier I faced when I was younger, that I was kind of supportive from my family to get past that, and then support me going through the pathway and things like that.
Yeah, I think family's a massive thing, isn't it? I think obviously like barriers in terms of playing, obviously like the injury side of things, but for me it's way more visible now than when I started. So I started playing rugby when I was 14. Really lucky that the group of girls like 2 years above, Laura Keats was the current under-20s captain at the time, and they were like, the school was very well known for the boys, and they used to get people in, and the girls like, we want to do that. So they basically set it up. So that's how we got into it. And if that group of players didn't push for it at school, then I probably wouldn't have had the opportunity to start. And also when I joined Bristol, we had Kath Spencer, who was the current England captain, and I had no idea who she was. And like, you kind of heard of a couple of names, but because you weren't really aware of it, and I don't think it was until the 2010 World Cup when it like properly kicked off and was in the media. But before that, I was like really naive as to who was who, and that probably helped me when I was 18 years old playing against these players. But yeah, at the time you don't have those role models to look up to, so I think now it's really cool that not only is the international game on a bigger stage and on TV, actually the PWR, and that's like way more players, is now in the public eye on TV, more people coming to watch. So I think having those role models for young girls growing up being like, I want to be like so-and-so. I want to be the next Jenny Hesketh. I want to be the next Meg Varley. Like, they can see all those players, and it almost fuels the fire and that aspiration to overcome barriers that you might face along the way.
Well, I want to be the next Amber Reid, so just saying. Yeah, genuinely, like, family's huge. Like you said, like, I wouldn't, like, say I was living in Coventry, the closest girls team at the time was Hinckley, which is 40 minutes away from where I was living, and it was just like, at that age it's a bit of a mission. And if my dad hadn't have driven me there religiously, then I don't know what I would have done.
With your job at the community foundation, you obviously like go into schools, and there's like girls of loads of different backgrounds. What sort of barriers do you see come up with them? Like, do they necessarily play rugby outside, or is it mainly your sessions in schools? And how have you kind of had to adapt sessions to get people involved?
Well, yeah, so obviously you get like an array of girls. Like, so we have Project Rugby, for example, which is one of the programmes, and it focuses on like, say, ethnically diverse girls or low socioeconomic groups and stuff like that. But then you've also got other projects where schools will pay for us to come in, and it's like maybe more affluent girls, but it's still girls. Like, it's still that kind of, that whole broad factor. Just trying to make sure they have a good relationship with it is the main thing.
What would you say about the game has changed during your time?
You guys go first. You've probably got a lot more things to say.
So much. I think, like, growing up for me, I didn't necessarily have some role models, like female role models in sport. I think London 2012 Olympics, I was 10, and seeing Jessica Ennis-Hill like competing in so many different sports, that was a big turning point for me, being like, oh, I can do all of these things. Like, this is really cool. And I think because of the environment I was in at home, I didn't necessarily need that female role model. But when you can see it, it definitely makes a difference with how much you put into sport and how much you want to get out of it. I think with rugby, coming from under 18s and pathway stuff and then going into senior, there's quite a big difference in that sense. And I think even in the last 3 years since being in the Premiership, for me, you've seen how much the game's changing and how professional it now is. It's a really big thing.
Yeah, again, pretty much the same, like, just little things like changing venue. So, like, actually being more associated with the men's clubs. Like, when I started at Worcester, we were lucky enough to be playing at Six Ways by that point, but before, they were all thrown over the road. Since then, since the game's become more professional, we've just been like, it's nice that clubs are kind of merging teams together. Like Bristol, like the men and women are fairly like close in a way. Like, I've never really seen that properly before, and it's quite nice. But it obviously helps being at the same venue, having the same, like, kind of the exact same kit and all that kind of stuff. It's little things, but it really does matter, and it's progressed quite well.
Yeah, I think the facilities is probably the easiest thing to pull out on. When I first started playing, we played at Lockleys. So like the old Dings ground, you had a tiny little medical room, and now you've got a medical room with like 8 physio beds and a little side room and a head of medical, whereas actually they were either volunteers or getting like paid per hour, like peanuts. And things like that. Obviously, to now be a high performance centre, like you said, role models being way more visible in the media, and the attendances of games like growing and growing, having full-time athletes, semi-pro athletes at clubs now as well, and that's only going to get better in the future, and that's something that's really exciting. For like people to now aspire to be a professional rugby player, you can do that 100%. And I think the important thing about the role models as well is you don't just see them on TV, you actually get to know them as a person or see their personality. And it kind of breaks down that you see someone on TV and you're like, oh, I could never do that. They're like superhuman. But actually they're just a normal person. And like sharing, I think there's a lot more now about sharing stories and making like us relatable to everyone actually is more inspiration. She's like, they're just a normal person. Like they've been through things, highs and lows, but actually they've worked really hard to get there, and there's definitely more of a platform now to share that story. And also people just want to get involved with women's sport in general, not just rugby, but like sponsors and everything like that. It's definitely growing and an exciting place to be.
I think as well, like names on the back, like that's a huge thing.
It's sick. It's so
like,
good.
Changed during our time when I first started.
Just like women's fit kit, like really simple things.
Yeah.
Like when I started, like
You're
massive,
drowning.
like box t-shirt. Could put my name about five times on the back. But yeah, it's just like the little things that just add to that like professionalism and the look of everything. Yeah. Still room to go though. 100%.
Yeah.
Still room to go. How are you currently inspiring inclusion within the sport and your own communities and networks?
Just making sure we get, like, a lot of the programmes cover a wide range of communities anyway. Like whether that's camps where like often kids who are already involved with rugby want to get more of a professional experience. We've had HPC tours for that as well, like proper full-on masterclasses. And they're all like getting really excited because Xledger just walked in.
Yeah, I think it's like seeing their reaction is like honestly like, the
priceless.
best thing sometimes. And like as a squad member, you get 23 people that play, you get like your travelling reserves that don't warm up, and then those that aren't selected, and like sport is cutthroat. And I think the most pleasing thing for me, we've got full squad buy-in. Like we've got an like obviously slightly biased, but we've got an unbelievable squad of genuinely like good people. And you could easily not be in that 23, be really annoyed, go away every weekend, not even bother. But the amount of girls that there is that little bit of expectation, but you still have a decision to make, and they turn up and they help out on match day, whether that be show the mascots around the changing room or like organise the tunnel for when we run out with the girls with the flags, or meet the girls that have come from the community programmes, run little games and like get people involved. And it's those little things that are behind the scene that don't get seen. Like everyone sees the 23 run out because they're on the team sheet and their names are out there, but actually it's the rest of the squad that turn up that make that experience the best it can be for everyone who's come to watch. And I think that's been a massive part of, especially since COVID, where no one was allowed to come, we were playing in front of empty stands. Actually, to create that match day experience is why people are coming like back, and to get over 1,000 people at Shaftesbury Park is testament to not only the players that put it out on the pitch, but also everyone in the squad who gives up their time to make that experience. And that's when you get people coming back to watch, to engage, and then the players chatting to everyone in the stands after. Like you could easily just go in, but everyone stays around, sees friends and family, signs, has photos. And I think that also again breaks down that barrier of role models, that kind of adds to that inclusion piece as well.
And I think when you're talking about inspiring inclusion, I think it's creating safe and comfortable environments, and within women's sport that's an environment where the fan base we have is so young, or families, and it's really different. And I think within sport, women's rugby specifically can bring a whole different fan base and a diversity in that fan base, because it's completely different to a lot of other sports. So it's inspiring inclusion in a different way and to different people. I think personally, like, my experiences of inclusion and diversity work is like, there's not enough funding for the university teams to have more coaches. So like, as a player with knowledge and with a bit more time, I go in and coach with the uni team. And doing my placement in New Zealand, we worked a lot in diversity and inclusion there, and it's really about that safe and comfortable environment that you're creating for, say, people with disabilities or people from diverse ethnic backgrounds to actually feel included.
Is there anything, like, from your experiences over in New Zealand that you think we're missing out on over here that you'd like bring back over? I'm quizzing you now.
Well, I think they buy into culture and they want to express that because it's an incredible thing. So I think within clubs we can uplift people from different cultures or different nationalities and talk about that a little bit more, because, like, say, we get to know the Scottish girls more, and just about kind of just get to know your players in a different way outside of the rugby is a big thing, because culture brought so much to the teams I played with in New Zealand.
Yeah, I think I'm a massive believer in, like, everyone's a person before they're a player. So it's like, yes, they play rugby, but that doesn't define them. Like, the person they are defines them, and that's where I guess that bit comes in. Like, getting to know someone off the pitch definitely helps with that connections on it, but that first bit is really important.
And that links again to inspiring the broader community. Like, if we're showing a diversity of athletes and a diversity of people that are included in our squads, then more people are gonna feel like they're being seen and they're being represented in a way. So it all links down to, like, representation, and that really drives inclusion, really.
What advice would you give to future generations of aspiring female athletes?
Oh, it's gone deep now, hasn't it?
Very deep.
Kind of what we just said, really. Like, make the most of the people around you. The thing I really love about rugby, and I guess it's like, rugby makes it really simple in terms of you need everyone on that team to be different in order to have the strongest team. Like, there are obviously some exceptions to the rule, but if you had a team of props, they'd be unreal in the scrum, might struggle getting the ball at the line out and then, like, pace out wide, obviously with some exceptions.
Well, so some of them are really bad.
And, like, there's so many, like, parts of the game. If everyone is a little bit different and plays to their strength for their role, actually you've got a really strong team. But if you're all, like, towards one way, so it's like celebrating the differences of the people around you, learning off other people, and also just enjoy what you do. I think that's when you get, like, the most out of the environment you're in, which then allows you to be, like, the best you can be, because it's really hard to do it on your own. Whereas actually using the people around you just elevates you as a person, but also everyone else around you as well.
Yeah, and I think it's also, like, taking all those opportunities that you get. Like, growing up, when I was in an environment that was all boys and me playing, like, take those opportunities and be like, you know what, I could prove that I'm better than them. Like, I can be in the middle of the photo, and kind of wanting to prove people wrong if they then say anything about it. And yeah, I think showing that your presence is so felt and, like, so needed for a squad to work, especially with your differences and things like that.
That's where I'd like say with a lot of the younger girls, so who I work with, or any fans or anyone, it'd be like, if you enjoy it, just do it. Like, especially growing up, there's always going to be some sort of comment, or like, you'll get questioned a lot about it, or there'll be some barrier that does get in the way, which is going to happen regardless. But if you like doing it, just crack on.
I think it's that safe environment, like you said. Like, a lot of the girls, I think boys tend to go on their own a little bit more, but girls like to have safety in numbers.
Yes.
And if they're the only one in their friendship group,
Yeah.
it's quite hard to, like, push them to try something if none of their friends do. But if you create that environment that, like, brings them in and makes them feel comfortable, I think that's, like, really important for allowing them to express themselves and give something a go.
Yeah, I think it's also supporting each other. Like, if you're in an environment where there's 2 girls and 10 boys, I think it's be like, you know what, let's work together to like prove how cool we are anyway. So I think supporting those people around you that could be in a similar or different position to you, but you're both trying to achieve the same goal, like, push each other and work together with that. If you could go back in time, is there any advice you would give your 10-year-old self?
Care less about what other people think.
Nice.
Take Meg's advice. Just worried about stuff all the time rather than just live in the moment and enjoy it. Like if you get things wrong, doesn't matter. Like you learn. I think I personally learn way more about failing and trying to go again than like getting everything perfect all the time. So
I think another thing like that I still work on today is like realizing that when you're in the team sport, like there's so many people around you like that are supporting you, and it's never down to just you. I think sometimes you take stuff on your own shoulders, especially playing rugby and different sports. You think, oh no, if I make a mistake, it's going to be all on me. But I think give myself that confidence that you're going to be picked up by those players around you because you're in that comfortable environment and you're in a team that supports each other so much. And I think like before a game now, like just look across the room and be like, you know what, I've got this support around me. I think give my 10-year-old self that confidence that the community that I have is great, and really just thrive off that, because they're the ones that have given you those opportunities, and they're the ones you can show the appreciation to when things do go right, giving it back to them.
Yeah, I think I'd probably give more advice to my 14-year-old self. But like 10, I was like, to be honest, fairly happy, chilling. And then as I got older, that's when it's like, it could be anything, be like from body image to, because all that's kind of changing. You've got like all of the higher level rugby kind of started creeping in, and then it's all like all of a sudden there's pressure. It's not just club rugby anymore, and it became a lot. Like basically, just I would tell my 14-year-old self just to like stop stressing, like you're fine, just crack on, and then like everything else will take care of itself. And I think that's amazing. Like it doesn't matter what age that happens at, it still goes on through adulthood. But you just have to keep telling yourself just to chill out, and that would be the case for any athlete, male or female. Just chill and enjoy it, because that's like what a lot of the kids, like, again, go back to that, like there's a lot of kids that are like, oh my god, I'm not doing this right, I'm not doing that right, and it's like, you're 12, just enjoy it. Like,
it doesn't matter.
Please just enjoy it. No one's going to remember it. And but every time I give that advice, and I'm like, why don't I do that? Say that to myself now. Like, just get a grip. And I think that's something that's massive, and it's going to tail on through to like adulthood. And that's where I just like, I'd tell my 14-year-old self just to get into good habits and stop panicking, and then I'll probably be less panicky now. But there we go. But yeah, and I think that's massive for any athlete. Like, it's really important.
Yeah, just remember why you started in the first place.
Yeah,
like you said, when everything piles on top, you're like, all right, why am I here? Because I really like it. Like, sweet, done.